All right, so I actually just started recording a little bit late right now, but it's okay because we were just starting. So I just wanted to break down how to most effectively use this meal plan template. So that way you're getting what you want out of your nutrition, because believe it or not, if you don't use this template appropriately and you're not using the recipes and kind of just like being flexible with your nutrition without really any framework or, you know, direction, then you might find like, what the heck, I'm eating at home, I'm doing everything right, but I'm not really seeing or feeling much of a difference. I want to highlight a few things on here. Underneath each category, there will be the words generous or modest, right? And then on one of these, you will even see, or a couple of these, there will be the words optional. So these are very important parts of the template, because what I have seen in some of your guys' meal tracking, not you specifically, Nikki, but is some of these columns will kind of be skipped over, or just like not really, like for example, the leafy green, this is a big part of making sure that our nutrition is balanced. So when creating your meals, you don't want to put just like a couple, leaves of spinach and consider that to be your like, to satisfy this column. That's why the word generous is there over this column here. Now it's up to you if you want it to be cooked or raw, totally however you feel best. Like I noticed on your stories, you did the arugula, the microgreens, which I think is lovely. Usually if you're using microgreens, you don't want to cook those because they're already very delicate. But like if you're using spinach, one thing I really love about both spinach and kale actually is when you cook them, they really condense a lot. So you can have a whole lot of it without feeling like you're eating just a giant bowl of like leafy greens if that's not really your vibe. So especially if you're doing something like that lentil pasta, it's really cool to kind of either blend the spinach in with your sauce or just chop it up really fine or steam it in with the sauce. And it's like you don't even notice that it's there, but yet you can put a lot in there. So the base of every meal should be your leafy green. Like you don't want to skip this one. Otherwise, we're going to find that our meals, well, they're just going to be imbalanced. So you don't want to skip the raw leafy greens or the cooked leafy greens. Greens are also really great to help the body detox. So we'd be doing ourselves a disservice by not having those in there. Now, second thing is the bean, legume / protein source. So here are just some options. Like with everything on this template here, these aren't the only options, right? This is just ideas, examples. There are so many leafy greens you can pick from, just like there are so many different types of beans and legumes or blends that you can pick from. Now here you can do black beans, pinto beans, garbanzo beans, hummus, refried, like there's so many different options. And I just want to remind you that following this template doesn't mean that you are having to make like salads or Buddha bowls all the time. For example, you could easily put steamed lentils into a pasta sauce and make like this textured type of pasta sauce, which actually is super good. And you don't even notice that there's lentils in there. Or you can use an actual chickpea or lentil type of pasta if that's what you prefer. So what I like to do when I'm craving something a little bit more like on the heavier, on the filling side, is I will use, let's say, like a quinoa pasta or maybe like a really good quality brown rice pasta, and then put lentils in my pasta sauce with a bunch of veggies, maybe even blend some spinach in there. Maybe even put like a spoon of garlic hummus in it to make it creamy, and then add some more greens on top. I can add some cherry tomatoes, a little bit of basil. You have a beautifully well-rounded meal. So just so you know, it doesn't always have to be like salad. I'm not that much of a salad girl. I go through phases. Sometimes I'm all about them. Sometimes I just don't want anything to do with them. But I just want y'all to know that it doesn't only have to be like salad type meals. Some other ways that you can use a template is making like sushi bowls or like Mediterranean style bowls or like fajita bowls. It can be all kinds of things. Like the way that you use your seasonings and your toppings really can be a game changer for your meal. So like, let's say if you're making like a big, like a chickpea, like a power bowl, You can always like toast your chickpeas in the oven and make them like a nice little crunchy, spicy topping to whatever dish you want. So that's like, you can be really creative and have a lot of fun with this if you want to. But the idea for the meal plan template is to make it simple and easy. So yes, you can get really creative, but you don't have to. It can be like the most simple thing ever. So like, for example, let's say you have a really crazy day, or like, you're just going to be out of the house all day or something, or at work. Let's say, for those of you watching the replay, let's say you're at an office. It's so easy to just take like a container of spinach, throw in a can of black beans, some frozen rice that you heat up in there, throw in an avocado and some hemp seeds, a little bit of kimchi, and like a topping of your choice. And you have literally a 5-minute meal that's very well balanced. So the template is there for those that tend to not want to go through like the hassle of putting together a recipe that's in the cookbook. I know sometimes like I feel like going and doing the recipes, but sometimes I just like want to throw things into a bowl and know that I'm good as far as like meal quality and stuff goes. But just remember, sometimes it can be tempting to make the base of your bowl the carb. And you know that I am not the one to be like, oh my gosh, protein, protein, protein. Like, you need to get your protein up. I am not that kind of coach. However, we still need to strive for balance with our meals. They need to be well-rounded. So something else that I see is like, a huge bowl of brown rice with like everything else is kind of like a topping, like a little bit of lentils, a little bit of veggies, and like a little bit of sauce. And then mainly it's just the rice. So you just want to be sure that you're looking at these labels with the generous and the modest parts and honoring these different, because this is what's going to help you create the balance. Generous amounts of leafy greens, generous amounts of your bean, legume. Also, something that you'll probably know by now, but beans are so, so, so healing. And sometimes if we're not used to eating a lot of them, it can be a little bit irritating to our gut because it's a high amount of fiber to have that we're not used to. But I want you to know that as you ease your way into consuming more beans, like even for people that believe like, oh, I just get really bloated, beans are not for me, you actually can train your gut to be able to handle beans. And it's in our best interest because beans are really great for helping us balance our hormones. An amazing advantage for women, because obviously with us, like we live very stressful lives nowadays. We wear many hats, we're in a lot of roles, and our hormones can definitely get imbalanced with life. So beans are not only amazing for your digestive system, but also for ensuring that your hormones remain balanced and that we do everything that we can to kind of balance things out within our body too. So don't be afraid of the beans and the legumes. Now let's see. I want to talk a little bit about the fat as well. The fats can be things like avocados, hemp seeds, pumpkin seeds, cashews, whatever you want to do. You might want to make like your own cashew cream and put like some herbs and spices in there, whatever you want to do. I encourage you to lean more towards fats in that way, like with your nuts and seeds and avocados, versus using things like oils or purchasing like store-bought butters and things that usually contain like low quality oils. You're going to be much better off in general when it comes to like balanced health, is finding whole sources of fats instead of like refined and processed. And anywho, any questions so far? Okay, you're good. All right. With sauces and toppings, I don't want you to worry so much about like, oh, is this the cleanest, most healthiest, most high quality, non-GMO, organic, raw sauce I can find. The sauce is supposed to be fun and add a nice spin twist to your meal. So I want you to have fun with your sauces. Now, obviously, you're not going to like drench your food in the sauce. Like, this is just to make it fun. Like, whether you want to do like, again, your own type of cashew sauce or buy something from the grocery store. There's this amazing vegan goddess dressing that Whole Foods sells that is so, so, so delicious. Like, have fun with these, because if you're using the template more than you're using the recipes, you're going to find there will come a time where you're like, ugh, I'm bored of my meals. It's just part of this whole journey. There will be a time where we're bored of our food, and like that's okay. It's not anything bad. You're not doing anything wrong. When you are following a routine, sometimes our routines can feel boring. That doesn't mean to like, okay, screw the template. I'm just going to go like eat takeout all the time. It just means mix it up with your sauces and dressings. Like, you know, try different things. You can actually have the same exact recipe with a totally different sauce, and you'll have a very, very, very different meal. Like, to give you an example, when I make the like pasta dishes, sometimes I will just use a traditional like pasta, like a marinara sauce, but sometimes I will blend up like cashews and garlic and a bunch of different types of herbs, and I'll like blend up some marinated artichokes and just make like my own really good sauce and topping, and that one dressing will change up the entire meal. So I just want you to know that this is like kind of the secret trick here to help you stay on track. Um, but yeah, so I hope that was helpful in explaining the meal plan template. It's important that we get this template right, because if you're going to go through the effort of following a template at all, you might as well make sure you follow it correctly, right?
Right. So I do notice, I mean, I could get better. Like you said, like it's usually a big, like today, that thing that I posted on my story, it was like, I mean, yes, it was from the meal plan and it was lentil pasta, but I mean, it's like a big giant bowl of pasta with veggies, yes. And then I put some arugula on top, but it was only like a half a cup, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I need to get better at adding more greens, definitely.
Yes.
That was a big bowl of pasta with just some greens on top.
You know, if you're enjoying the pastas, what I think is like really, really easy to do when you're like, well, sometimes if I'm in a major rush, I just like throw the pasta sauce on top of hot pasta and I don't even heat it. But if you're like, have a minute, grabbing like a little saucepan, putting your pasta sauce in there, adding like a handful of halved cherry tomatoes, kind of like letting them break down, and like chop up spinach and throw it in there, and you'll be surprised like how much more quality food you can get in your pasta sauce without having to put in a lot more effort. And then like having some frozen mushrooms on, or I'm sorry, frozen broccoli on deck, or you can just like also throw that in if you want to. And now you have like this really rich sauce, and then you throw that on top of your noodles. But I think like what you did so far is a great step in the right direction. It's just all about like fine tuning a little bit. And I think you're like spot on the changes that you would make.
Mm-hmm. And then I do notice too, like I'll go through, like I'm usually really good, you know, at meeting my calorie mark. Like I always get that golden star, which makes me feel good. But it's like my carbs are always at like 60%, and then my proteins at like 20%, and my fats at like, you know. So what really percentage is our protein and fat supposed to be on? Because my carbs definitely are always up there.
I mean, we can look at your plan right now. There's not like just one golden rule of like where your protein, fat, and carbs should be. It's dependent on you and dependent on your lifestyle. So like someone who is on their feet all day, maybe chasing after a toddler, will need very different nutrition goals than someone who's sitting behind a computer and not really moving much. So it just kind of depends. There's no like one rule on this is what it should be for everybody. You're talking about percentage of calories, right?
Right. Yeah. Like,
Yeah, so being around like the 15 to 20% with protein is a pretty solid place to start for the average person, for majority of people. Carbs is totally okay to be like the highest percentage there. And fat, we want to keep it moderate. So usually it's like, I'm trying to remember what the percentage would be. Usually it's going to be around like the 10% range. So if we get, let's say you're at 20% carbs, 10% fat, or maybe even like 15% fat, then as you can see, like the great majority is going to be your carbs. Now, as long as you're not filling your carbs with like bread or like a donut or whatever, and you're doing things like quinoa or like a quinoa pasta or like a sweet potato, then you're going to be all good. It's just sometimes when people think like, oh my gosh, I have all these carbs I can eat, they're like making, you know, a sandwich with like a bunch of bread and just stuff that's not really like that helpful for their
Right,
goals. So just know
right.
like we want to get our carbs from quality sources.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I do notice that like I am losing weight, you know, now that I got the nutrition all the way back on track and I started tracking it and getting back in line. And I know it's quick, but I've already lost like a good pound or two in just the
Nice.
2 weeks. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. I didn't even think that that was really possible. Like, but yeah, in just the 2 weeks. So I mean, I was a little bit worried about the carbs, but it must not be that big of a deal, you know, if it's
Right.
working. So
Yes, I think the word carbs just has like such a negative stigma, but that's because we've always been grouping the word carbs with things like pastries and cereals and cupcakes and, you know, white bread, where yeah, of course, that stuff is junk. So as long as you're sticking with this template, you will be good, and it's totally okay to be higher on the carb side. Now, as long as you're using that energy. So like if let's say you're only getting to like one or two of your workouts, then we might want to reevaluate if this many carbs is needed, because at the end of the day, carbs are very energy dense. If we're using the energy, we're wonderful. We're in good shape. But if
right.
your activity ever slows down, or maybe you're having a hard time meeting all of your workouts, then let us know so we can make sure that we analyze everything all together and adjust, because then we may want to have the protein a little bit higher, the fat a little bit higher, and bring the carbs a little bit lower.
Okay. Well, it seems to be working okay, and I did work out yesterday, so it's going, getting back on track.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for being here. I'm always appreciative that you show up and really make the time to get to these calls, because I know like if anyone has their hands full, I know you definitely do, and you still make time to be here. So that just speaks volumes of your commitment.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's good. I think these 2 day a week calls really they help. You know, they kind of keep me motivated and make me feel like okay, I am getting somewhere. Like I am doing this for a reason. You know,
Yes,
'cause
perfect.
it's easy to forget, like you said, like it's easy to forget your beginning intentions and why you got here in the first place. So it's good.
Yes. Okay, good. Well, it was good to see you and your cute little baby. I will see you very soon.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.